Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk a little bit about our new government, despite the fact they've only been in office for 2 or 3 weeks. And I also want to talk about some of the challenges which I think they're going to be confronted with over the coming weeks and months, and how I think things are probably going to be quite a lot more difficult than either they or anybody else expected. Now, I think it's fair to say, as far as I'm concerned at any rate, that I'm quite impressed so far. I think the current cabinet look pretty impressive to me. You know, we've got used over the years and years of seeing them as shadow cabinet ministers when they've got no power and so on, and all they can do really is complain about the government. But now that they are actually cabinet ministers with power, I think they look pretty impressive. I was very impressed with Yvette Cooper the other day, giving James Cleverly a very, very hard time, and she was brimming with confidence. I think Keir Starmer is doing a pretty good job on the world stage. He looks the part. He looks very serious. He's wearing his prime ministerial glasses these days, and I think he looks serious. He looks sensible. And I think the whole world must look at us and think, you know, for the last God knows how many years we've been. We've had as prime minister absolutely crazy people. If you think back from Johnson and Truss and yet with Rishi Sunak, and we must have looked so ridiculous. And it's just been an embarrassment. It is great, I think, to have a government that you're no longer embarrassed with, that are not making fools of us all around the world. And I think the vast majority of policies, frankly, that the Labour Party have seemed to be pretty sensible, and a lot of what they're doing and what they've done already is pretty good. It's great that they've confirmed that the Rwanda's scrapped, and that they're not going to recommission the BBC Stockholm when that comes up for renegotiation in January. They've announced that they're going to appoint a COVID corruption czar. Good idea, it's the right message, but I don't think it's likely to raise much money, because I think that money's all gone now. It's all into tax havens, and the companies have all been wound up and so on. I think it's good he's confirmed that we're never going to leave the ECHR, and generally it's great that we're sending out the message that we're a sensible country again. Now, as far as funding is concerned, they've made a big point, and it was in their manifesto, that there would be no additional spending that wasn't funded, and the idea was to fund additional spending by VAT on school fees, and by stopping the non-dom tax dodge and so on. And I just wanted to read you some of the things they're doing, because they all seem to me extremely sensible and wise, and things that should have been done before. For example, they're going to arrange for 40,000 more medical appointments. That's operations, scans, and appointments every week. I mean, that is a lot. I think the obvious question is, well, where are the staff coming from? If we're short of doctors and we're short of nurses, where are we going to get staff to do another 40,000 appointments a week? But maybe they've thought of that. They're going to double the number of CT and MRI scanners in hospitals. That's great as well, so people won't have to wait so long for their scans. They're going to arrange for 700,000 extra urgent dental appointments every year. Well, that's an awful lot, and you have to ask again, where are the dentists going to come from? Because as far as I can see, most dentists are absolutely booked up and can't take any more patients. They're going to provide free breakfast clubs for every primary school. Seems a brilliant idea. I mean, children should never, ever be hungry in school. And they're going to invest more in HMRC in order to try and reduce tax avoidance, which seems, again, very sensible. As I say, this is all sensible. All that is going to be paid for by cutting down on the non-dom racket, which is a scheme which Rishi Sunak's wife used until she was discovered to be using it, in which case she changed to paying tax like everybody else. They're going to employ 6,500 new expert teachers. They do say expert. Now, if you're an expert teacher, why are you not teaching? So does that mean they're going to have to train up 6,500 teachers? And how long is that going to take? You see, nothing's going to happen that quickly. They're going to increase teacher and head teacher training. That's great. And they're going to deliver work experience and careers advice for all young people. They're going to open up 3,000 new nurseries. Again, it'll take time. It's not something you do overnight. And then they're going to recruit 8,500 new mental health staff. Well, very, very, very important. There's a lot of mental health problems these days. But how long does it take to train someone to be able to deal with mental health patients? I wouldn't have thought it was that quick. And I can't believe there are 8,000 of them sat around or driving Amazon delivery lorries. And so it goes on. But all this comes to something like 5 billion, which is all funded by VAT on school fees and the non-dom and so on. But 5 billion, but when you think about that, 5 billion, it sounds like a lot of money. That is, to put it into context, it's 1/6 of what was spent on test and trace, which didn't happen to work. But and this is part of the problem, the fact that so much money was squandered by the previous government. When you start totting it up, it's probably around 100 billion actually squandered, for which we got nothing back. Like Duff PPE and given to bounce back loans, which were never collected, etc., not insuring against interest rates going up, and all these sort of things. Just incompetence and squandering. And that has very much weakened our economy. When you take 100 billion out of the economy over a fairly short time, it's bound to weaken the economy. And the economy is in a terrible mess. There's an outfit called Begbie's Trainer, and they're sort of consultancy, and what they do is they monitor businesses in the UK and see how they're doing, and they issue regular reports and so on. They issued a report earlier this year in which they said that in the UK, and I found this staggering, 47,000 businesses are on the verge of collapse. They were about to go bankrupt. And apparently, they also said that 540,000 businesses were in significant financial distress. In other words, presumably that means touch and go. They haven't got enough money to keep going much longer. And that is the economy we have at the moment. We know why businesses are going bust, because nobody's got any money, because all the money is going in mortgages, it's going in rent, and it's going in higher food prices and higher fuel prices and higher rail fares and higher everything and higher taxes. Nobody's got any money, and you can't really expand an economy if nobody's got any money to spend. And this is the big point, really. What the government are saying is that there'll be no unfunded tax, no unfunded spending. The only way any money will be raised is by growth, economic growth. We have to go for economic growth. And I think what they don't get, and what is so important, is that it just takes time for growth. It's going to take a long time. You've got to train people. You've got to invest in machinery and all the rest of it, and you've got so much to do, and it requires such a transformation. If you start with a level economy which is doing okay and everything's fine, then you might make it. But to go for growth in an economy which is in such trouble, is so struggling, it's going to be so difficult. I think it's going to be impossible. And of course, at the bottom of all this, and you're probably now going to kind of come to this, the real basic cause of most of the problems that we're suffering now is Brexit. We were part of the biggest, richest, most successful market in the world across the channel, and we decided we don't want anything to do with it anymore, and we don't want their people coming to work here anymore, and so we've got shortages of labour, and we've got a much smaller market, and it's there are plenty of statistics to show how badly it has affected us all. So it's said, I mean, I got a few here, according to Cambridge Econometrics, in a survey they did for City Hall, they reckon we've lost 140 billion of economic output since Brexit, that the economy is 6% smaller than it would have been, and the OBR reckons that there's been a 4% reduction in long-term productivity as a result of the TCA with the EU, and 66% of exporters say it's now more difficult, if not impossible, to export to the EU. And until somebody says, look, okay, Brexit was a mistake. We all know it was a mistake. Until somebody says Brexit was a mistake, look, we have to do something about it. We just have to try and find a way back somehow or other, at least start to. We're never going to recover. We are not going to be successful on our own, where we throw away all this huge market. And what have we got in return? To do Brexit cost billions and billions and billions in time and money, and hundreds of thousands, millions of hours of civil servants' time. And they're still working on it, still working on. What are they working on? Trying to make it more and more difficult to do business with the EU. And Starmer says, there's no going back, but we're going to reset our relationship, reset it. We've left the club. If you belong to the golf club and you leave, resetting your relationship with it would not allow you back into the club. And it's just the illogicality of it all. When it is such a disaster, to stick to it for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I mean, as I say, talking about never going back into the EU, where incidentally it's costing £330 million a year to deal with the bureaucracy. £330 million a year to deal with the bureaucracy involved in goods coming in and out of the EU. And if that's not enough, really, we've got other problems that I suppose really should be dealt with that are holding us back. I think one is our sort of class system, having a House of Lords and all that utter nonsense. I think having a right-wing media which is so influential, which is controlled by people who don't pay tax in this country, and who own newspapers that are not taxed in this country as well. I think the fact that London over the Tory years has become the sort of dirty money laundering capital of the world, where criminals and people with dodgy money come from all over the world to buy property and to invest and to talk to accountants and lawyers in order to arrange to get their money put into one of our tax havens. Half the tax havens in the world are in British-controlled territories. And I think on top of all that, the high property prices, which means that everybody's spending all their money on property and on rent and rates instead of having money to put into the economy, to spend in the economy, and where really everything is all our utilities are owned by foreigners. The railways, the electricity, and the gas, and the water companies. And I was looking because the Labour government, they're going to form this thing called the Great British Energy Company, and they're going to go into developing and creating and generating green power, which is great, which is wonderful, excellent, brilliant idea. And they're going to put 8.3 billion in, and they're going to invite investors to come and invest. And chances are foreigners will come in. But the problem with this green energy company is that any energy generator has to go into the national grid, and the national grid is in a bad way. It needs upgrading and needs a lot of money spending on it to modernise it. But the national grid, that's one of the most important infrastructures in our country, is 80% owned by foreigners, 25% Americans, the rest people from all over the world. And as I've said before when I was talking about the water companies, if you sell off all your vital utilities to foreigners, what the hell do they care about it? If I'm an investor in Australia or in Canada or in Venezuela, what the hell do I care about whether or not the infrastructure works in the UK? All I care about is my dividends. But anyway, I think we've got a nice new government, and they're saying all the right things and doing a lot of the right things, and where they can do things, they're doing great things. But I think their ability to create growth is, frankly, it's illusory. It's so difficult. You have to confront Brexit first of all, above everything else, and then after that, it's going to be a very long, hard journey. And in the meantime, we're going to remain very, very poor. And I don't know how the government are going to respond to that when we start getting even poorer and poorer. But anyway, that's what I think about it. If you've been kind enough to watch this far, thank you very much indeed. If you haven't already subscribed and you mind doing so, I'd be grateful. And until next time, thanks again and bye for now.